Hello, one and all, and welcome back to League of Europe Season 7. This is the 10th round of the Division 2 Championship, and it is coming to you from one of the most iconic racing circuits in the entire world. It is Spa, Belgium. The Belgian Grand Prix is ahead of us, and we're going to see how this Division 2 season will continue to evolve, to twist and turn as we head into the second half of the season now. To take us through action once again tonight, it is usually not myself, Daka, and alongside me in the commentary box, as always, it is Mr. QVR Verstappen. Mate, how are you doing tonight?
Hello everyone, and indeed, welcome to Division 2 in here at Spa. I'm doing quite well. Obviously, iconic track we're going to, and these drivers will tackle that 7-kilometer and 4-meter long track. So let's see how they do.
4 meters is very important to add that on to the end, of course.
Yeah.
So currently 18 drivers in the lobby. Hopefully we do possibly get a full grid. We're just probably a couple of seconds away before we do actually get into it. So the way things are standing right now, 9 rounds into the season, and this very peculiar situation we have in the Drivers' Championship still continues to evolve, with Car Mentalist an incredible 35-point lead without a single race win and only 3 podiums from 9 races. In the Constructors' Championship, it is McLaren still leading, of course bolstered by those 2 wins from Rudy right at the start of the season. Very close though, Alfa Romeo and Red Bull also right in the mix in that regard. So we'll see how that is going to continue to evolve. But yeah, I think it gets more and more mind-blowing every week. Car Mentalist has a significant lead in the championship and still without a race victory 9 rounds in.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? How something like that could happen. There's a bunch of drivers that are in behind from 2nd to 8th. There's 17 points between them. If any of those drivers can get a good streak of races, you could easily see them challenge, I think. But it has been proven to be so difficult to hook up a good streak of races and actually get some momentum in the championship.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that from anyone. I mean, Timon, who's the second place man in the standings right now, we've seen him. He managed to rack up his 4 best races back to back, which included 2 wins, a 2nd place, and a 7th place. So that's pretty much the best we've seen from him this season. Car Mentalist, just with a string of solid top 4 finishes, has really kept himself afloat at the moment. Both the top 2 guys in the championship, I know, have had their preparations for this race somewhat compromised in their personal lives, so maybe that'll open the door somewhat. But I think one thing is for certain as we head into a pristine Spa day into qualifying, 18 minutes of course in front of us. I think one thing that we can take forward as we head into this 10th round: always expect the unexpected in Division 2.
I don't even know what the unexpected is anymore, that's right. Well, we do have a driver coming out, and it's the same one as always, so I guess there's some sort of consistency here. It's QRT Simon, who's first out on track. He's coming out of his way onto Radion and onto the Camel Straight, which will be definitely the main overtaking opportunity, alongside maybe the straight from Stavlo all the way down to the bus stop chicane, so watch out for those places.
Yes, certainly. Going to be a lot to look out for. Yeah, that DRS and the Camel Straight is very powerful, so you can definitely see positions changing hand. DRS trains could build up here, same as always, really. We'll see, though, how things are going to take shape as we build through the formation lap. One thing that we have been told, we are going to get a bit of rain in the race. Then further along in the race, apparently past 30 minutes, so we'll see how that's going to unfold. It could come near the end of the race, and that makes things very interesting in terms of strategy, because one thing is for sure, tyres can certainly last quite a while at this circuit. It's not very high wear, but do you want to try and maybe get that qualifying done on the mediums? We'll see. There's a lot of guys that have gone out on softs, a few guys going out on mediums, but depending on the timing of the rain, that tyre choice, even if you get into the top 10, could be very interesting. But are we just going to see everyone go for it the same as we usually do? Interesting dilemmas maybe being weighed up for the drivers there. QRT Timon, though, will be first over the line. The Alfa Romeo kicks it up, and I'll hand over to you, Verstappen, to take us through. Second policeman in the championship up over the line around Spa. Let's see how he gets on.
Yes, he's just coming down to Los Soros. You break around the 100-meter boards, go down into second, maybe third gear. Third on the exit he goes. Use a bit of exit curve. It's not too dodgy out there. Now down towards the famous Eau Rouge and Radion here. Up, down over the river and up the hill we go. DRS will be open very shortly. There it goes then. And we get speeds up towards 330 kilometers an hour, close to at least. Timer goes 3:23, so not too quick in a straight line. Flies it into the comp, loses a lot of risk there onto the curbs and through Malmedy now. Close and validating, but looks fairly clean actually from Timon. And then into Ravage, easy to lock up if you do not run ABS. And he does that a little bit, but gets through it again nicely. No name, difficult corner, easy to invalidate. Using Orbit, even the freaking Astro turf on the outside there. Third pull, 7th gear. And hold it down to the Lefania chicane. Again, very difficult, maybe the most difficult combination on this track. Easy to invalidate, easy to lose on the curbs as he gets a lot of oversteer on the second part of it. Throws it down into Stavolo, a bit scruffy the second half of this lap so far. And now all the way down towards Blanchimont he goes. And you can see some slipstream maybe later on in the session here as well, given out by teammates possibly. And now down towards Blanchimont, easy flat in today's cars obviously. And towards the bus stop chicane, very easy to lock up again. So, have to see if Timon nails that nicely, but he does seem to do that. Spurt on the exit to get a bit more traction. DRS open and up to the line. QRT Timon goes with a 142.4.
To open up the session, your professionalism very nearly cracked in the middle of that lap, but we'll move past that as we look for these opening runs to start to come in at this early point in qualifying. So it is the Alpine of XL Hardy who's going to be up to the line a little, just 1/10 down through the middle sector, about 700ths down over the full course of the lap to Timon. Funky Chicken on mediums does a 1:43.499 as a time that he sets at this early stage. Behind is, and as I saw him coxing in the Aston Martin, spinning it, hitting early fun. You said how difficult that is. Carico go to the top of the timesheets. Gary is behind, goes second, 1:42.403, and Mr. BT, as we so often see, and qualifying up to the top of the timesheets, 1:42.2, and now the time's coming in. Forza Brendan, who of course we have not seen in quite some time, really up near the front, but he has put himself up into third at the moment. So you can see these early times coming in. Mr. BT though, very impressive, setting the timing sheets alight early on. There's a lot of medium runners to come through later. Mr. BT a 42.2. I think we should see quite a bit quicker than that, of course, throughout the remainder of the session, but quite typically, Mr. BT and Crico, two guys we'd usually expect to be up there in qualifying, already setting the pace early on.
Yeah, I think the pole time as the screen goes just in behind his teammates, also on 1:42.3. I think we'll get a pole time maybe just creeping into the 41s. 41.8, 41.9 is what I'm expecting. And yet, interesting to see these guys going on to mediums. They might, if there's rain at the end of the race, they might try and save out a soft set so they have fresh tires for that period.
Yes, certainly. I'm wondering if there's going to be that sort of battle for poor man's pole position that we'd so often see, because realistically you'd want that strategic freedom. I think the drivers have pretty much guaranteed that you're going to if you're going to get in the top 10, you're going to have to do it on softs. That seems to be a precedent that has been set very early on. So either you make that push or you're fighting for that P11, and I think of course, alternate strategy is always very powerful, typically, on this game, but I think depending on that timing of the rain, I think you're going to see even more manoeuvring to try and get to that P11 spot as possible. Certainly no one wants to get stuck on the lower end of the top 10.
Yeah, that could be detrimental if the rain does end up coming quite late in the race, as the softs will not be able to last that long. The tire wear is quite low around here, but I don't think you can take the softs much further past than the halfway point-ish. Very comfortably anyway. So yeah, you don't want to be ending up in that sort of position. So I think a few drivers will try and obviously get up near the front and get their track position that way. But if you as well would just go for that P11 and try and get the best strategy for the race.
Yeah, certainly. We will get a few lulls in this session, just because of the sheer length of the track. We will see those breaks, and Activity XL Zerima is really the first car to get out there on the second runs at the moment in this session. 42.5 P8 is the point for XL Zerima. Of course, probably one of the guys that you put as a favourite for poor man's pole position. He's fairly good at always manoeuvring himself into the right spot, so we'll see if he can try and pull that off, or if he has the confidence to really try and get up there. Realistically, everyone outside of the top 4 would probably be expecting at least to get pushed out of those positions, possibly further down the session, but you, of course, as a driver, you're always looking, and you need to know your own ability. You are not, I imagine, going to go for that go all out in this session unless you're confident you can get up to the front of the grid. And that may be reserved for only a few drivers then. Typically we only see maybe 5 or 6 drivers at most in contention for pole position, and really you don't want to be any lower than that. So if you don't think you're in that group, then realistically you'd probably want to start getting yourself in position to try and grab those spots at the just outside the top 10. So we'll see what those guys are looking for, or if we're going to see everyone going all out, banking on rain coming early in the race.
Well, I have to see about that indeed. These drivers will know their own capabilities and what they will be able to do, and they'll see these times and they'll think, oh, are we going to be able to get up maybe in a top 5 slot, or is that a bit too much asked for myself anyway? And yeah, they'll have to look at that all individually. As just on board my side, I might just invalidate up onto Radion. Quite a bit of a sloppy mistake, I have to say, but I'll have to see if he can improve later on. I think Coxie behind is just on a lap as well.
Yeah, the Aston Martin heading down the Kemmel straight now, so we'll see what he can do. First sector time is fairly decent, 32.2, uses quite a lot of the track to open up that corner. Not going too heavy on the curbs, of course, very easy to unsettle the cars. You head out through Mahamudi, then carry as much speed as you can. Downhill braking zone, into reverse, very tricky then. He gets it nice and stopped, takes a nice tight line. Now opening up No Name corner there, swinging in again, all about carrying momentum, try and use as much of the track as you can. No quote-unquote esports line from Coxey as he heads it into Pool, and then early on the throttle as you can again, all about carrying that speed. And now towards Lefania, very, very tricky chicane there. You can use this curb slightly, but you don't want to turn too hard when you're on this curb, and you can see a little bit of sliding, but not too bad from Coxey. And he's got XL Gary right in front of him then. He's going to pull over, no slipstream for Coxey, fairly decent middle sector, 14 flat. Now it is all flat out towards that bus stop chicane then, manoeuvring your way through, trying to take the line of least resistance, keep as much speed as you can. Blanchimont, of course, the downforce that these cars generate, no problem for Coxey. Now gearing up towards that bus stop chicane, braking just before the curb there on the left hand side. Now opening up the final corner on the track, manage that throttle pedal, plant that right foot. Now to the line is Coxey, P8 142.499. So we'll see these second runs come into then. Coxey to P8, he should be safe for getting knocked out the top 10 if he doesn't improve, but we'll see how the rest of these times coming in, how many drivers are going to be eager trying to snatch those top spots in this middle phase of the session.
For now, it's not been Matt Tibbles today, as he's not set a lap time and just lost it out of the Lefania chicane as well. So he'll have to see if he can improve later on in the session. Looking around, I think Carmentalist, is he on a lap? There's the other Alpine actually of Hardy, and he's 2.5 tenths up.
Yeah, very good through the middle sector, so he could be looking at potentially getting himself onto provisional pole. Of course, we saw his raw pace last time out in Australia, but it wasn't really rewarded with a load of points. So he'll be looking for more this time around then. Opening up the final corner. Is he going to go all the way to the line? He opens up that DRS. Now going for the line. It is provisional pole. 142.195 is the time for XL Hardy. Mr. BT though is improving then, just under a tenth of a second up through the first 2 sectors. More cars to the line then. One of the McLarens, Nathan JB, of course, we know what he can do in qualifying as well. 114.1 middle sector goes 9th. 42.5 is the time. Mr. BT though coming up to the line goes fastest. 142 flat. Now the times are coming down. Let's see what the rest of the field has in store. Carmental is actually diving to the pit lane, so no lap time yet. Larkin behind is invalid. There's a Williams behind on the track. Forza Brendan now coming up to the line. Doesn't look particularly fast, or is it? Maybe I can eat my own words here. It is second place. So there we go. Forza Brendan and Gary, as we so often see in qualifying as well, goes fastest. 142 flat, just over 200ths of a second in front of Mr. BT. Forza Brendan a good lap as well. So those guys all coming to the fore. Gary at the moment has that top spot. We'll see what the rest of these middle runs are going to be like. Looks like the majority of them have passed. Funky Chicken, though, is on an absolute flyer. 113.6 to the first two sectors. Could be looking at those top spots. So the Mercedes man now looking up, gearing up to that braking zone at the bus stop chicane, onto the brakes, using the curb quite aggressively to turn the car in. Second gear now, short shift to third, planting the right foot again. Could this be provisional pole for Funky Chicken? Yes, it is. 41.9. So Ariel Funky Chicken, the D3 promo T that has adapted well to Division 2 this season, and proving that so once again. Funky Chicken to the top of the timesheets, the first man into the 141s. The times have come down considerably in these middle runs, and it's the Mercedes man that snatches a cool pole position. But of course, still a long way to go, and about 3 drivers covered by a tenth of a second. Don't go anywhere. This fight for pole is going to be intense as always in Division 2.
Yeah, Sully just coming across the line. He's gone up into P6. Not seen a lot from him this season yet. Maybe that would change today. Funky Chicken, not one you usually expect to be at the front of qualifying, but he's managed to get pole almost by provisional pole anyway, almost by a tenth of a second. So very surprising to see, to me anyway. We have just under 4 minutes remaining, so everyone would just be gearing up for the final runs. Larkin and Matt Tibbles are the first one who've gone out, along with Zoudema as well. So we'll have to wait about a minute and a half before they will start their laps.
Yeah, we can get these final runs underway. Of course, if you don't have a lap time, do you bank on trying to get up there? Matt Tibbles is a driver that we know can put it all together. We know the pace that he has. The question is, will he put it all together? Is he going to commit to that? If you're low down the order, do you risk it or just try and grab a potential P11? We'll see how that's going to unfold. But yeah, those times, that battle for P11 might be just as intense as the battle for position 1, because we don't know how this race could unfold, especially in Division 2, and the plethora of safety cars we have seen throughout this season could always have an impact. But Matt Tibbles, we've already seen a few mistakes early on in the session. We'll look to iron those out on those last runs. Regardless of what alternate strategy, you do not want to be starting from position 17. Ariel Carmentelis, the championship leader, will certainly not be looking to start from position 18. He'll look to try and get himself a bit higher up the order. Of course, not a qualifying specialist at all, but at least he'll be hoping to get himself near that P11 threshold. Matt Tibbles then is going to kick things off. Wide line to open it up. Back to you again, Verstappen. Take us through another hot lap. 2.5 minutes to go in the final runs in qualifying. Now about to get kicked off.
Yeah, just coming down towards Lesoros, quite aggressive on the brakes. Second gear, first gear, even at the apex. You get the car rotated in quite a lot. Clean on the exit there though from Matt Tibbles. Now up towards Aruz and Radion, very easily flat as well. Doesn't seem to be a lot of traffic ahead of him, so that'll be good news for him. DRS is open for the Williams. And now down towards Lecom. Let's see what the sector split time will be. It will be a 30.1. It's very quick so far. It says it's purple. Don't know if that is. Fourth gear throughout. Lecom looks fairly tidy so far. Maudi, a bit of hesitation on the turn in. And now down towards Ravage, very deeply broken into, and this looks very good so far, I have to say. Down towards No Name, fourth gear, just briefly get the car rotated in once again. And now down towards Spuhon, turn in just about 30 meters before the corner. Sixth gear even, dropping it down to get the car again rotated in. That seems to be Matt Tibbles' favourite thing to do so far this lap. Fourth gear, use it throughout. Fifth gear, brushes the curb, but just about keeps it on. And now down towards Stavilo. Third gear, briefly again, 114 flat. It doesn't look that quick so far. I have to say, I expected it to be quicker. And down towards Blanchimont. Let's see, maybe he can gain some time in the final sector. I think this will be around P7, P8 at the moment. Around the Alpha Tauris where they are at the moment. Down towards the bus stop. Can he nail this one down in towards first gear even, second and up the gears, spamming it once again. DRS is open and across the line, Matt Tibbs goes P9. Equal time with that scream, obviously late in the session, so he'll be behind him.
Yeah, he will be. Oh, Larkin, big slide out the bus stop chicane. That's not going to do him any favours. Goes 13th, 42.5 outside the top 10 for the moment. Now we're going to see those times start to come in. Red Bull Zerwa goes 5th. Good lap. 142.1, but will that put him in the best spot for the race? We will see. Here comes a run of times now. Still, these guys coming over the line late. There's a few drivers that are going to be stretched for time. Sully in particular is surely too far back to get over the line. So let's see now. Up to the line, Funky Chicken will just about make it over, but the McLaren of Nathan JB, I think, will just about get over. Sully, though, his session is run, his session is done. There's an Aston Martin off at the third sector at Stavilo. That is Coxey. Coxey will have to bow out in no higher than 12th. The AlphaTauri's in formation behind then. Krico was very quick through the first. That scream, just invalid, you say, going through curveball for Krico, though, is on a fairly good lap. I believe the AlphaTauri, although we're not going to get a great camera angle. Now we come back then, heading through Blanchimont, 310 kilometers an hour, now building up uphill towards that bus stop chicane, getting himself onto the brakes, gonna swing it in to the final corner. Funky Chicken has gone off, so his time will not be improved. Let's see how that's going to evolve things. Krico goes 4th, 142 flat, and behind it's an Alpine. It's Commentalist. He's pretty decent to the first two sectors, goes 8th, but does he want to be there? Let's see. The Ferrari is then behind him then. Bumpier, very good to the first two sectors, goes 7th, 42.1. The times are really starting to hot up at this stage. Hardy has gone to the pit lane. It's the Alfa Romeo. Timing is extremely quick to the first two sectors. Larkin crosses the line, does improve, but invalid is at the moment then. There's the Red Bulls behind him then. I think Zaudo was giving a toe to XL. Gary carrying himself up towards the top of the timesheet. No, just misses out. Let's see, Benji S, 11th. Watch the times flood in now. Mr. BT is very good through the first two sectors up to the line, and he does go fastest, 141.8, and Timon has actually come off his lap. He would have been on pole, but invalid. And that's going to be it for qualifying. Mr. BT snatches pole at the death from Funky Chicken in second place. Gary in P3, 3 drivers into the 141s in the end. Timon, what looked like something fantastic. The lap time came together, but in the end you have to keep it between the lines, and he will start from 16th. Carmentalist in P10 probably won't be too happy with that. AJ Wuhan does grab that poor man's pole position, though barely in front of LOI Sully in the McLaren. Fun qualifying session. Now we look towards changeable conditions in the race ahead.
Yeah, I have to say this qualifying session looks to be sort of upside down. People you expect to be at the front of qualifying are not, and people you don't expect to be are, yeah, they're right up there. Unless you talk about Mr. BT, who puts it on pole position, Funky Chicken second, Gary and Krico on the second row, then it's Forza Brendan and Zuidem on the third row, Bumpia and Hardy on the fourth, and then Nathan JB and Carmentalist inside the top 10 for once. Not something we see often, I have to say. Then outside the top 10 we have AJ Wuhan, Sully, Benji S, The Scream, Matt Tibbles, Simon, Coxey, and Larkin rounding up the 18-car grid tonight.
A 7-kilometre circuit and a 6.5 tenth of a second field spread, given wet setups, that is very remarkable. So we'll see then how things are going to unfold when we will see any rain coming up, or if it's not going to arrive entirely just because Codemasters likes to do that to us sometimes. We will see as now we go towards it. At the moment, looks flawless, absolutely perfect weather, but we can expect it to change, I imagine, heading through the future. Of course, pole position starts with the inside lane heading into La Source, which of course is fairly untypical, and very difficult to maintain that lead throughout the first lap. Really, it's all about that exit off of a La Source. Getting good traction can really set you up. You may still see cars side by side towards Radial and further down the field, which obviously some guys will have to back out of that one into a Rouge, so we'll see how that's going to unfold then. They're going to have to be quite sensible down there. The slipstream we know is very powerful down that Kemmel Straight. So if you're going to be the man in P1, You need to get a good exit off that first corner. If you slide, you get wheel spin, you're going to be very vulnerable heading up that hill. And that's when we can see some overtaking down there. We will see, of course. But yeah, certainly Spa. One of those iconic first sectors, really, in terms of the way races can unfold there. Mr. BT, going to be interesting to see how he manages this one from the front of the grid.
Yeah, just in the meantime, no surprise outside the top 10, all mediums there, and they will be stretching towards the supposed rain that is bound to arrive. If not, they'll just go on an alternate strategy onto the sauce. Expect that to be around lap 13-14. Would that not arrive, that weather? Yeah, as you said, that first sector is so important. Obviously, turn 1 into La Source, it bunches up so much, such a tight corner. And if you get a good start from P1 and you can go across towards the outside, you can get that good exit on towards the long 25-30 seconds full throttle section then. But if you do not and you have a car on the outside, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do that. And maybe someone in P2, P3, P4 could have a chance at challenging up towards the combination as we saw in 2018, I believe, with the two Force Indias. Perez and Ocon challenging for Hamilton and Vettel. You'll have to see how that unfolds. Other than that, it is just about keeping it on the track here. A lot of curbs spin you out. So let's see if these drivers manage to do that a bit better than maybe last time was in Australia.
Yeah, certainly. We'll see how that is going to unfold. Of course, you do mention probably one of the most famous images in Formula 1 history. Was that that image from 2018 going 4 wide into Lake Como. We'll see if any craziness like that is going to occur this time around with Mr. BT coming from the front of the grid. Has one podium for the season. Of course, we've seen him, well, not seen much of him throughout this season, only 4 races thus far, but each time he's had contending pace to be at the front, although only one of those times has he really delivered on that, and that was back in Portugal 7 races ago. He leads them now to the grid. Funky checking alongside him on the front row, and this a very unpredictable start, so we'll see how it is going to unfold. So we come up to the grid now, ready to settle, I guess, with quite a lot unknown in front of us. Who's your tip for this race, Verstappen?
I'm going to say Funky Chicken wins this one ahead of Mr. BT and Creeko in third.
Interesting. Let's see how that is going to go as they now begin to take their spots on the grid. It's going to be Larkin, the former champion, bringing up the rear. Of course, you can see those bottom 8 cars on the mediums, top 10 on the softs, as we head towards now at one of the most famous racetracks in the world. It's the 10th round of the Division 2 season. It is 5 lights. And we're off the grid in Belgium. From the line as Mr. BT challenged on the outside by Funky Chicken. Cuts across, heading towards turn 1. Gary maintaining P3. Forza Brendan and Creeko side by side, and many cars going 2 by 2, heading through La Source and away up towards Origin Radion then. So it's Mr. BT leading them then. Still cars side by side, heading up towards Origin Radion. Then I saw Hardy and Bumpier side by side. Carmentalist then behind, and now Funky Chicken trying to get up to Mr. BT. Chasing down the gap, but no battery being used. Looks like Mr. BT can hold on to this lead. Behind Creeko, still under pressure from Forza Brendan. Slots behind into P5 then. Zonema 6th. You can see them all swapping away. Still Hardy and Bumpier going at it. Heading through Malmedy now side by side. Great racing between the two of them. Then Hardy looks to have the advantageous position. Heading in towards Ravage and will snatch up that place. Then Carmentalist looking behind it. Bumpier can't get through on the Ferrari then. Matt Tibos, the leading medium runner. After some chaos at the start, they're still all swapping positions as Larkin gets past Cox, who looks to finally settle things down then. All clean though. Looks like everyone has got through the first half of this lap okay.
Yeah, and to note as well, Matt Tibbles has made an amazing start. He's 4 positions up into P11 and from medium runner. His task is now to stick with the soft runners as best as he can and make that strategy work. Just looking around, Mr. BT's got a 6/10 gap. He is training a little bit, but not too much. Funky Chicken has still 90% ERS. And Gary is having the drain as well. Forza Brendan is already under the back of Mr. Emily Creeko. And this is looking to be shaping up a move down towards the bus stop chicane. He's looking towards the outside. Brakes late. Can he make that work? A bit of wheel-to-wheel contact now. I think Creeko just about stays ahead. But can he maintain that? I think he's got a better exit. Forza Brennan's got a good one. Mr. BT sits the fastest lap of the race, but this means that Krico is actually getting detached here from the top three.
Yeah, it was relentless attacks from relentless Forza Brandon. I'm sorry about that one, but yeah, he's really thrown everything but the kitchen sink at Emily Krico, and Krico holds firm. That gap hovering at about 1 second. Big lap here for those guys from P4 downwards. Hardy is now attacking Nathan JB after defending for Bubje on the last lap. Nathan JB made a good start to the race. He runs 7th, holds on in front of the Alpine in behind him then. Matt Tebos in P11, great start as you mentioned, trying to stick with the train in front. They're very tightly bunched from 4th downwards. That could lend itself to them running back into Matt Tebos through this middle sector where dirty air can be a factor. Hardy looking at Nathan JB, can't quite get to him. There's yellows back there with Coxey, who's gone off at Radion. He went on the first lap, the only car to pick up damage, and as he recovers the Aston Martin, it's a nightmare start really, no front wing. And if any track you don't want to lose the front wing, it is this one. In the first sector, you've got a lot heading your way. Bumpier has dropped it, heading out of Lefania, going through Lefania. In fact, he manages to recover the car. Did he have to go off the track? That Scream's gone round as well in the AlphaTauri, so he recovers it. 2 cars spinning through that chicane then. So in the end, maybe that pack running so bunched up has cost Bumpier, and that Scream's gone round as well further down the field.
Yeah, I was on board with Bumpy for that one. Very peculiar incident. He lost it. He hit the entry curb of the right-hander and just kind of overcorrected it and lost it. Very strange incident, I have to say. Krico setting up the fastest lap of the race so far, then with a 45.9. He seems to have caught back up with enough ERS to play as well, so DRS will now be enabled. So Funky Chicken might have a go here at Mr. BT.
Yeah, you can see that further up the order. Not sure if he's going to be near enough, if he's going to be all that interested in making a move. Gary in P3 has actually struggled to live with this pace. He is burning ERS, is Funky Chicken, so he goes to the inside, heading to Lake Com and through to the race lead. Funky Chicken leads. Mr. BT and Gary trying to stay with us, down to 30% battery already then. They are still very tightly knit. Carmentalist working his way past his teammate Hardy, who was wide heading out of Malmedy, recovers the car, doesn't seem to have any major damage, but Carmentalist goes through now. He's going to have to work to stay with Nathan JB up the road in front of him. Matt Tebos looked briefly to be detached. He is still with the train though, 7/10s back. Benji S looks to be struggling slightly to live with this. Coxey's in the pit lane for the 2nd time in 2 laps, which is absolutely wasn't in the plan for the Aston Martin man. So Benji S is trying to stay with it. Matt Tebos will struggle a bit more, you'd imagine, with the downforce and the grip needed for this middle sector, but I think a mistake from Hardy up in front is keeping him in it. So Matt Tebos doing a good job, AJ Wuhan doing a good job. Benji S is going to have to work though. He may get dropped as Booby has gone round again. That's the 2nd time he's gone off at Lefania.
Yeah, he seems to not have a good time whatsoever at the moment. Yeah, Hardy seems to be the one who's struggling a bit as well. I think Carmentos may have made a mistake very recently, as he is dropping back slightly here. I think he might just about get DRS to get a bit of oversee on the exit. Funky Chicken, the fastest lap of the race, obviously with that DRS pass. But Mr. BT is right on the back of him and will probably be looking to get back past.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye. Carmentalist, not a great run. It looks like he may just about be able to stay with DRS, but he is under that little bit of pressure there as the championship leader. Mr. BT surely will be looking for a repass here on Funky Chicken. He lines it up, goes to the inside along the Kemmel Straight and will breeze through back to the race lead. Krico and Forza Brendan may at last clear the AlphaTauri, and he does. The P4 now trying to get up to his compatriot Gary further up the road. Then AJ Wuhan with a pass as well on Matt Tebos. Bumpier has had enough. He's gone into the pit lane and retired the car at this stage. Hardy now struggling. Those 2 Alpines looking a little bit dodgy at the back of the field. It's allowing these guys to stay with it, but Matt Tebos, a couple of errors. AJ Wuhan's gone through. Matt Tebos has dropped some time, but ultimately with Hardy now slipping back, the medium runners may be able to keep up, but as long as Hardy is detached, then really those guys are not going to be as far up as they want to. So Hardy's going to have to work then. Carmentalist may not be too willing to let him back in because he's still struggling to get with Nathan JB. These Alpines struggling has just strung out this medium train just a little bit.
Yeah, it's not done well for them, and that hasn't either, as AJ Wuhan is round out of the Lafayette chicane, full front wing lost. That's another victim to that same chicane I've seen now. Third one, I think, as well. No safety car brought out so far. But yeah, just as mentioned as well, the top two look so comfortable at the moment. Mr. BT obviously showing his pace, and Funky Chicken doing that as well, but sitting on 85% ERS here, compared to nowhere near for the others around him, apart from Zuidema, who is quite high up as well, as you expect kind of from him. Yeah, the sub-runners have gotten clear. Hardy's struggling a little bit. But yeah, due to AJ Wuhan spinning, Matt Tibbs is now 2 seconds behind him.
Yeah, that gap just opening up, of course. AJ Wuhan was really holding that together. I think we'll see another pass between these two. Oh, Mr. BT moves over on Funky Chicken. Funky Chicken will go around the outside, and an almost similar and almost identical fashion to his teammate. AJ Wuhan retires from the race. Ben JS and Matt Tibbles. Matt Tibbles being swamped here as Ben JS gets through. Sully gets through. Matt Tibbles, the P12, and they're beginning to swap places and get very bunched up in that gap. Just opens up that little bit. We do have to keep an eye on those conditions, certainly, but that gap is not going to be all good for the medium runners. 2.5 seconds, and they're not going to get that benefit. And I think the crucial thing about this track compared to others, those soft tyres can maintain pace for quite a while. We're only 4 and a bit laps in at this stage. The gap just over 2 seconds, but those soft tyres can definitely maintain that pace for a few laps yet.
Yeah, they will keep their pace up until around lap 6, 7, I think, and that's where they really start to kind of drop off and slowly deteriorate. At the meantime, Gary looks to be, of the top 4, the one who's struggling the most at the moment, as Zuidema's out.
Zuidema, that's hitting off a curb pole flare, so he must have hit the outside wall. Back on, hopefully everyone avoids that car, that stricken Red Bull. I don't know how a safety car hasn't come out yet, because, well, he is practically on the track. As he's recovered, Zuidema, a rare mistake. Gary's taking that opportunity, and I think almost in anticipation of a safety car, or a VSC at least, being brought out for the Brendan Hardy. Those guys follow them in, the rest of them stay out at the moment. That opens up a gap with where Creco is, but the car is cleared, and I think remarkably, despite it bouncing back near on circuit, somehow no safety car or VSC. I think that's a first for Division 2.
That's kind of mental to say that one hasn't brought out a safety car, but the incidents in the past have. Mr. BT is looking at Funky Chicken again for the race lead, and this looks a bit more tight. I think Funky Chicken is backing out of that one, and Mr. BT retakes the lead once again. Well, Matt Tibbles has been swallowed up by Timon as well. He's now the 4th runner in this medium terrain. Just looks to go from bad to worse for him after that great start.
Yes, slipping down the field is Matt Tibble. Sully has gone off though in the McLaren, and there's no front wing on that car. He must have gone off out of Malmedy. And the McLaren will try and recover that, but that's another driver error. We're seeing those creeping in all the way through. Sully will try and bring the car out to this downforce laden middle sector. That is not going to favour him one bit in this race. Mentalist has now been detached from the group, so he may be looking for a stop. We'll see if he's going to come in then. Forza Brendan is the leading guy, so he's going in front of Gary now. So Forza Brendan, Gary, a few seconds back to Hardy. You'd imagine that some of these guys will be stopping, maybe going out for a little bit longer. Creco in particular, who's been detached, Mentalist has been detached. Those guys may want to try and latch themselves back onto some sort of train. That Scream has gone past Sully, of course. Sully is off again, heading out. Stavolo recovers the car, but ultimately another error from the McLaren driver, and we're seeing as Funky Chicken and Creco and Nathan JB and Mentalist, they all dive to the pit lane, so Mr. BT is left out there. Very intriguing stuff. So we'll see how he reacts in terms of strategy. So all those guys coming in at this early stage of the Grand Prix, recovering now, but what we're seeing with Sully and others, the driver errors have really crept in today.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers who have suffered from any sort of spins or damage already, and it's quite early on for that. It's only lap 7, I think about half the grid almost has done that. Meanwhile, Timon is going to line up a move on Ben JS here, and there's going to be a very easy DRS pass. I don't think Ben JS will be too fightful of that one. Larkin getting past Matt Tibbles as well down into Lacombe, and Forza Brendan, he's overtaken Funky Chicken now.
So Forza Brendan has really worked his way into this one, and you can see the power of that undercut coming into play. That Scream just in front up the road may hold those guys back. That may help Mr. BT, but with Gary right with this as well, things could certainly change. Let's see how that's going to unfold. Kriko has got a big responsibility trying to get to Gary. Those guys will get held up a bit from that Scream. That Scream, who's going to, I imagine, continue to stay out, or at least try to hold these guys back, could potentially split up the train depending on where they get those done. So the likes of Forza Brendan could look at a car like that Scream in front. With Mr. BT, you'd presume, going to lose time. He is actually heading through towards Blanchimont now, so we'll see how that unfolds. But all these guys will be looking at an opportunity and a danger. That Scream could have a big impact on a tightly knit train like this.
He could definitely do that, and Forza Brendan looks to be eager to get past the other AlphaTauri as Mr. BT is in, so we'll keep an eye on where he comes out. We see Forza Brendan just staying behind for now. I think he'll just take his time slightly with this and not overdo it and overrush it altogether. Time is in the fastest lap of the race, a particular interesting thing. Obviously, he had the DRS pass on BenJS early on in the lap. So Forza Brendan goes 3/10 quicker than that at the moment. And he'll be looking to get past the Scream very soon.
Yes, still no real sign of rain. There is Mr. BT emerging from the pit lane now. He is still going to be in this group, but he is jumped by Forza Brendan and Funky Chicken. So Forza Brendan with the net race lead, he looked to have good race pace as well. He's going to look to get past that Scream. Funky Chicken and co will be very eager to follow him through. So here comes Forza Brendan and up towards the inside, towards Lee Coleman. I think that gap may well be established. Forza Brendan gets through and Funky Chicken is not near enough. So Forza Brendan can really push on this lap, and Funky Chicken is stuck in behind the AlphaTauri, looking for a way through but can't at the moment. So this is where things could potentially start to open up. We'll see. So Forza Brendan now has got that little bit of a break, and now he's going to try and work his way back towards that group in front. If of course that we could see rain, we will see how that is going to shape up. But yeah, that Scream now holding these guys back 6/7 of a second, and there's not much they can do through this part of the track. Overtaking very difficult here. Funky Chicken, you'd think maybe able to get past him on the run towards the bus stop, but that gap is already re-established. We saw how comfortable Funky Chicken was looking early on in race pace. Now on a different tyre, he can get past that Scream as soon as he can, but ultimately Forza Brendan has got that break he was looking for.
Yeah, I think he's anticipated that very well, and the Scream not easily giving up the positions has helped him as well. And to know as well, Gary barely has any ERS, so he is going to struggle to get past the Scream later on, and it's getting a slight bit cloudy out here. Not too, but you never know with this game, it could change very quickly. So keep an eye on that. Funky Chicken hit in the back of the Scream slightly in the last chicane. Forza Brendan set in the fastest lap of the race once again. And we'll see Funky Chicken lining up for a move on the Camel Straight. A very easy one, I reckon so. And let's see if Mr. BT and anyone in behind can follow through, as Mr. BT's got a good exit as well. So I reckon we can see the Aston Martin following through the Mercedes past the AlphaTauri here. And open goes the ERS and the DRS now for Funky Chicken. And this should be a fairly easy move. Is Mr. BT going to be able to follow through? I do not think so. He's going to try it. He looks on the inside, goes late on the brakes, and squeezes the AlphaTauri out wide. Mr. BT has got past, and now Gary's the next one up.
Yeah, hard move there by Mr. BT, but he knew how to get on with it. Gary is searching then. He knows he can't let that gap be established because his race pace looked a little bit weaker than the others, so he is desperately going to want to make sure he is sticking with that group up in front. And Funky Chicken is just about a second from Forza Brendan, so that's going to be some fight to try and keep out of DRS and Forza Brendan's case. And actually that Scream is backed off heading towards Lefania, and he's let two cars through. Nathan JB in a much more awkward position, can't easily get rid of this contact heading through Lefania. Hardy picks up the spot then on the outside, and I don't think Nathan JB is going to be happy with that one bit. That Scream suddenly backing off and letting two cars through, seemingly trying to help his teammate and with Gary. So those two get a bit of a gap, and now Hardy will look to try and get through. Nathan JB and Carmentalus are also getting bogged down here, so let's see what's going to happen now. All these guys fairly low on battery, so it's going to be difficult for them to get back in. That Scream is playing a huge team game then for his teammate, and he will get some defensive DRS to hold Hardy back. So this is going to change things then. Funky Chicken has coming up towards Forza Brendan now. He's with it. Mr. BT is with it. Gary, though, has been separated with Kriko. Again, that gap opened up thanks to that Scream. Hardy will look to get through here as they head up towards the top of the hill at Radion. So now Hardy searching it now, looking to line up the move. There will be DRS for that scream, so it's not going to be easy at all for Hardy. And he closes his ERS, he's got nothing more to use. And that scream just holding on, so this is going to re-establish that gap. That scream, I said he was going to play a big role in this race, and certainly now he is breaking this apart then. They're all getting frustrated in that scream with, well, extreme team tactics then, but in the end it's team tactics that are working then. He's still with Creeko up in front then. Gary struggling. Hardy frustrating though. That scream still holding a group of 3 behind him.
Yeah, it must be incredibly frustrating for these guys at the moment, but the scream, to his credit, he is staying with Creeko and Gary at the moment. Not dropping too far back, with a bit of ERS play he could get there, and it does help that Gary isn't the quickest at the moment either. No ERS to play with for him, as mentioned before. It's going to set him back quite a while. I think these top 3 are able to drive away quite easily now. All in about 35 to 45 in Funky Chicken's case, the latter anyway, ERS. And that makes for an interesting playing field here for all 3.
The conditions have very drastically changed. Look at this. It's all of a sudden gone very overcast, and this is what the top 4 were looking for. Nathan is really aggressively looking at Hardy. Hardy, I think, almost into the back of that scream, who's now got the McLaren just about alongside him. He's still somehow got DRS, and Hardy now defending from Nathan JB. He's all over the road. Hardy lunges to that scream and barges his way up and alongside the AlphaTauri. Rain is starting to come down, I think. So now as things really heat up, Nathan JB is trying to slow his way round the outside of Rouge. Wow, Nathan JB, that was committed and it was bold. He gets through and still that scream is trying to get back. He looks to the outside. Funky Chicken has gone past Forza Brendan. That scream right around the outside towards Lake Com. Has he cleared them all? Mentalist and now looking as Hardy lunges and rounds. Hardy into the wall and out of the Grand Prix. So XL Hardy has gone around and there's the safety car as the rain now begins to fall. And it is a strategic dilemma because the rain was only meant to be light. We'll see what these guys do in terms of strategy. So is this a benefit or a detriment to the top 4? We will see. Funky Chicken just got past Forza Brendan. Hardy going into the wall. His teammate gets through and now the field will reconverge. I have no idea what this is going to do in terms of strategy because this race has been thrown way up in the air. Coxie into the pit lane. It has to be enters, you'd think. Or could we see slick conditions hold up? This is what these drivers are going to be weighing up if the rain's going to be light enough. Coxie and it is enters. And what are the strategy calls going to be for the rest of the field up front?
Honestly, I do not know. It could stay in that little bit where it's raining, but it's not heavy enough for inters, and that would be very interesting. Very interesting call to make. But I think we'll see a lot of inter gambled here. Let's see if someone's going to stay out. Top 4 are in. Not sure about the guys in mind because obviously they've already pitted. They could maybe afford to risk more. Funky Chicken in. Forza Brennan. It looks like everyone is going in. Gary's staying out.
Ooh.
Nathan JB is staying out, Parentalist is in, and beyond that I do not know. Let's see if all these guys are gonna go on test. No! We see some softs, we see some inters here. I see Ben JS on Funky Chicken on softs, Mr. BT's on softs, Timon, Matt Tibbles and Larkno are on inters. And I think the rest of the pack is on softs. This is going to be very interesting.
Wow, wow, wow. That is, that dilemma has certainly been approached differently by many parts of the grid. Gary leads Timon. Now, will those enters come into their window? It's still very, very light rain at this stage. You'd imagine the slicks are still the tire to be on right now, but you never know how things are going to unfold later on. Of course, there'll be no real effort, I imagine, from these inter-runners to get the tires up to temperature. As the conditions are right now, we should, we'll see how quickly we get back underway. Coxie, of course, has already went out there on the enters, and it doesn't look all that great in terms of the grip, as you'd probably expect. He has to lift off the throttle completely, despite being very early on, heading through Carpal Frere. That's not going to be the case for the slick runners, but the rain continues to fall, and we'll see what's going to go down. Right now, it's very light, but it could certainly change. My apologies. So it will be, I imagine, maybe a couple of laps, and I think as Sully does go in for enters, Coxey, I think, could really tell here. He is going to stay out, so he must feel confident enough in those tyres. Will probably take a while to catch up, so we may get a few laps left, and that is going to benefit the Interrunners the longer their safety car stays out, the longer the conditions continue to evolve. So Gary leads Timon, leads Nathan, leads Ben JS. This is very intriguing then, because typically under safety car, you see different compounds emerging, but different specs of tyres altogether with groove tyres and slick tyres. The question is, how quickly can these inters set in? Because at the moment, Verstappen, the rain's still very, very light.
It is very light, and it's been interesting what these medium runners that stay out, that have stayed out, do. Because they can afford to take a gamble and go back into the pits now. Say Gary pits right now, he'd be the 4th Interrunner, he'd still be in a good position, better than he was. So if he feels he's made the wrong call right now, he could still revert from back from that. And the same goes for the guys that are higher up, Nathan JB, Ben JS, maybe for Funky Chicken. And also a bit of a game of chicken, sorry for the pun, to see who is going in. But it does look to get wetter and wetter, and I think Intis might be the right call here, to be honest.
Yeah, they can see it starting to have an impact on the surface of the track. Gary does stay out, though. Nathan JB does come into the pits. So he has decided to bite the bullet, essentially. Let's see what the rest of the field is going to do. Looks like it's stay out, apart from that Scream. And that Scream didn't have much to lose, so I think that's a good call for him. But the track surface, despite the light rain, it is definitely having an impact. Gary still leads, but the rain coming down heavier. And of course, if it continues to fall, the conditions will evolve. And eventually, those on the inters, they can go to the end of the race. And unless the conditions stay at slicks, which is, to be honest, quite a gamble to make, the inters could be the right call, but we don't know how this is going to unfold. Timon, Matt Tibos, Lark, and keep an eye on those guys. Would you say it's inters at the moment then? It definitely looks that way.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of strike coming off the cars already, and I do not think the slicks are anyway suitable to these conditions. So we're going to have a race completely turned on its head by the weather here, and the safety car playing into that as well. This is going to be detrimental for someone like Carmentalist, who is the last of the slick runners at the moment. So he is going to have a hard time getting points here, I feel.
Yes, certainly, of course. He's looked a bit shaky all the way through. I know that his preparation for the race hasn't exactly been great, which definitely hasn't played to his advantage at all. But yeah, he sits in a very vulnerable position at this stage. But we have no idea how this is going to unfold then, certainly. 14 cars left in the race. Coxey will get back to it, so really, there's no real way out for these slick runners now. Really, you probably have to come in now, but of course, can you come in now at this stage? You want to try and at least see if you can hold up for maybe a few more laps, but it's looking more and more like intermediates. We'll see. Gary leads the way. He's going to hold them all back on mediums unless they're still quicker. Timon sitting in behind though, and you'd imagine he's feeling very, very positive about his chances tonight.
I think he does definitely feel that way. Qualifying at 16th, not the greatest for him, but he's managed to show some good pace on the medium stint earlier, and the safety car is going in this lap, so let's see how this unfolds. I do think it's quite detrimental for the slick runners at the moment. To see how Gary does this. Is he going to try and hold on himself, or is he going to dive into the pits?
Look at the spray coming off the rear of that Red Bull already then. You'd imagine it has to be intermediates then. Visibility is really poor. I think a lot of these guys will be in the pits at the end of this lap, potentially. Maybe they'll give it one lap, but this is surely intermediate conditions at this point. Gary's still backing them up right towards the bus stop chicane. He's gone at quite a high pace as he heads up to the chicane now. Now, does he opt for the pit lane, or will he try and stay out? He is going to look to try and stay out. We'll see if there's anything. His car's washing across the track surface. He tries to apply the throttle, but there's no grip. Car's immediately to the pit lane, and Timon into the wall! Wheel-to-wheel contact, and Gary and Timon are both out! Unbelievable! I cannot believe what I've just seen! The two leaders coming together and out of the race, wheel-to-wheel! And my word, That has massive implications. Huge dive to the pit lane. Doesn't look like anything's coming out. There's still yellows out there. Matt Tebos now leads the Belgian Grand Prix from XL Larkin. A wet specialist himself will be looking at this now. Dead somehow the two McLarens have got themselves in behind. It's cleared on track. Gary and Timon. Gary had no grip. It was hard. I was on board. I couldn't really see if one car moved into the other. But both cars out, and that is one of the most dramatic moments we've seen all season. The two race leaders on track going out. There's no grip on the slicks. BenJS has gone off. Plenty of cars have gone into the pit lane, and now that top six group that they have got the strategy right. They've now been away, and some guys that have had terrible races have been thrust up. Safety car no deployed, and that is going to level the playing field. And I think everyone from P7 downwards just breathed a massive sigh of relief. Wow.
Yeah, one person that will be hating that is Coxie, as he's the only driver with a penalty at the moment. BenJS will be sighing with relief as well, as he'll be able to pit quite freely without losing too much time. That safety car racer has left me speechless, I have to say. I have no clue what happened. I think they kind of turned across one another, or maybe Gary lost a bit of traction with the slick tires, obviously not suitable to these conditions whatsoever. He saw BenJS immediately drop him back through the field as well. But yeah, such a weird incident there, and both drivers out, both close contenders to the championship of car mentalists currently as well, and they're both out. Well, they could have had possibly... Well, at least Timon could have had a win here, and that has not happened here. And Carmental is still in the race, so he'll only be laughing at that. BenJS has gone round under the safety car, actually. He's found a Blanchimon.
Oh, man.
That's
and he's
going to be some damage, definitely.
Yeah, he's gone very hard on the rear wing, so you'd imagine so. There's just zero grip out there. I think the guys that have went in this lap, even though they made the wrong call at first, I think they'll be absolutely... just praying, and they'll be so pleased that they've actually seen things really evolved in, and they didn't stay on the slicks, because it's an absolute nightmare. Forza Brendan has got a penalty for ignoring yellow flags. There's still tons of debris out there on the circuit, so he's just gone a bit too fast under safety car. BenJS comes in, will eventually converge. Timon, of course, out the session now, so Matt Tebos leads the way from Larkin. The field will come together. It's pretty much a level playing field, all in throughout the wet conditions. That was, again, one of the most dramatic moments I think we've seen in any season of Division 2. That was just insane, and that was just...
Another news. I think Forza Brendan got the penalty for overtaking BenJS, who was obviously off, basically on a very slow speed, so I reckon that could get removed. More interesting development, BenJS got pitted, changed his way, and gone back out on softs.
Oh, well, oh no. Oh no, BenJS. Well, I think, thankfully for him, I don't think, even if he drives flat out, he's going to be any quicker than the safety car, so he'll be able to get back into the pits again, you'd imagine. But yeah, that is very peculiar. BenJS now bringing the car back, he's waving around, so he's obviously made an error then. I don't believe he is of quite low enough IQ to make that sort of decision. He's just going to have to deal with another lap of the car washing across the track surface, and watching the gap. It is still extending to Carmentalus at this stage, although maybe that was before he caught the safety car cue. So BenJS is going to have to drive another lap with absolutely zero grip. He can maybe get rewarded with the Intos, and I think he'll take extra care to make sure he switches to those before he goes into the pits again.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely be looking on his MFD and making sure he is selected the green wall tires. Be curious to see if this... you said it was only going to be light rain. If this would go to full wets, if that could be a gamble that could be taken. There's still 7 laps to go. This game is notorious for being able to change the weather basically over the course of a second. Can we see any sort of full wet? I'd be very doubtful of it, as the Inters they're still decent enough to hold on usually in full wet conditions. But could that be a gamble to be taken?
Yeah, certainly. We'll see, because the track surface does look very wet. We'll see if anyone is going to pod with that. I imagine at the moment we're still looking at Inter conditions, but the rain continues to come down, so let's see. It looks as though we aren't seeing anything of the sort. They are all staying out. Will BenJS try and go something different? As a man that's already in the points and with nothing really to lose, We'll see what he does. He's
He's
staying
staying
out. He's
out.
staying out. What? My brain has
that
just
be-
melted. My brain's just melted.
Right. Instinct theory. Obviously, we do not have a clue of the weather here. Is there a possibility it is meant to go dry again soon?
Is he banking on
That's
that?
the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, that's the only way I can possibly justify why he's staying out. That is one of the most bizarre. That isn't the case, as he completely aquaplanes heading up Radion there, manages to just about keep the car straight. If so, surely he's going to lose at least a pit stop before it would even get to dries, because, I mean, at this present stage, with going back to racing on the next lap, yeah, my mind is struggling to comprehend what I've just seen in front of my eyes.
I have to agree. The same for me here. Yeah, I cannot comprehend this decision. We'll see how he fares, but I do not think there's any sort of justification for this. Unlike we mentioned, the weather turning back to dry. Interesting, and I think we should be getting underway this lap again. It'll be 6 laps of racing, hopefully. Matt Tibbles leading ahead of Larkin. Let's see, Matt Tibbles has not been in this sort of position this season yet, I think. Could this be a very good scoring opportunity for him then? And Larkin could be one to make up some deficit in the championship.
Matt Tebos' career in LOE Division 2 has been one full of just frustration, opportunities that haven't gone his way. This is one of the biggest opportunities you may see him have to offer, so we'll see if he can hold on at the front of this race. Of course, he's been a very long-standing driver in LOE Division 2, and well, he's now got such a chance here. Safety cars in this lap, there's no drivers on significantly better compounds, or possibly. We'll see if it does indeed go to dry conditions. Matt Tibbles now rolling along fairly high pace, fairly high tempo at this stage. Still not getting runs away. Larkin has laid off him a bit, but of course we're still close to the safety car. He won't go just yet, but he is taking this on at a much higher pace than what you'd usually see. Maybe he'll back it up heading nearer the line. So Matt Tibbles now, we head up towards the bus stop chicane. He can go at any moment now. He's playing with that throttle pedal then, looking to get things kicked off again. Is he going to open up towards the line? He looks to be on it now. Matt Tibos leads him away, and he gets a decent restart in front of Larkin. No one following all that closely in the wet. Going to be treacherous as they get things underway. Matt Tibos leads from Larkin then, and Ben JS is still staying out. Maybe he knows something we don't know. Matt Tibos leads Larkin. 6:10 says the difference then. Funky Chicken, who led for so much of the race, is actually the driver on fresher tyres than those in front of him that struggled a little bit off the restart. 4:10 to the good in front of Forza Brendan, as he try and adapt as quickly as possible to these conditions, and it's a great start for Matt Tibbles. He's got a clear view in front of him, and he is continuing to stretch his legs up front. 3/4 of a second to Larkin. Let's see how they do throughout this middle sector. I don't believe throughout all the time that we have seen from Matt Tibbles in LOE Division 2, I don't think we have seen him on the podium, so he has got himself a real chance here. Just in front of Larkin, they all follow, not particularly closely, of course, much more difficult to stay with the car in front in these wet conditions. And we do see yellows then, and I think, oh, that's another safety car that's come out, and oh no, I think there's a very, there could be a very familiar glitch rearing its ugly head here.
It could be. What could be a benefit, however, is that we are running towards the end of the race. Usually it ends off 2-3 laps to the end. If it is the case, there could be a chance we have 2-3 laps of racing at the end. We'll have to see what the decision is from the division organizer, from Commentalist as well. But yeah, they may be needing some information about this done, because this is obviously not what we want to see.
Yeah, certainly not. Of course, and the field is fairly bunched up, so I think it would be at the end of lap 19 that we'd go back to racing. But then we're inside the last 3 laps. That glitch may not happen again, so we will see. I imagine we're not going to see any stops for... oh, actually, Larkin does come in. So Larkin into the box, and that's a very odd strategy.
Is that... I think yes, called this, but a bit early.
Well, let's see. Because the rain is still coming down very hard. Carmentalus is going in as well, but he's got nothing to lose, really. So, I can sympathise with that. But Larkin, a man that was running in possession too, someone that we rarely see make any errors on strategy, goes for slicks. Carmentalus then also for slicks. Is this going to taper off at the end of the race? And is BenJS actually doing something fairly astronomical here? Larkin does come out in front of him on fresh softs. For a guy that had so much to lose, surely Larkin is confident in this decision.
Yeah, you'd imagine Larkin and Carmentalus are guys that don't make errors on these calls usually. You'd have to imagine this is something that is going to happen. It's going to dry up, but how quickly is it going to?
Well, let's see. Because as Larkin, again, he just goes straight on it, Lacom, because there's absolutely no grip. There will be 3 laps at the end of this then, but even if it goes to dry, surely the track's not going to dry up that quickly to really favour these guys a terrific amount. I'm not sure if maybe it's down to the fact that we've had the safety car glitch. We will see, but I don't know why you throw away that track position anyway. So we'll have a look at that. And if we're going to hear from Larkin, hear from Carmentalus say we did this because of the glitch, then would we take the results from the end of a certain lap? We'll see. But in theory, with the safety car that will probably come in at the end of lap 19. The last 3 laps, you say it shouldn't come out, so it would go to the end, and realistically, we do have an annoying extra safety car period, but ultimately, it wouldn't have a massive impact on the race. So, I'm very confused by this, because I still don't see this drying up to any extent to allow these 3 to really gain any advantage from it.
Yeah, unless it really goes to dry, I do not think they'll get any sort of advantage. It looks still sort of the same. It doesn't look to be drying up that much, so it'd be very interesting what their Jeffs are telling them, Brody, because be some interesting strategy behind this.
So coming up now, 4 laps to go. Hard to imagine. The rain looks to be, if anything, slightly lighter. So maybe we will see. It has eased off, I think, a slight amount. So maybe it is going to go to dry. Matt Tibos, we'll see if anyone decides to go into the pit lane. Nathan JB is going in. This is fascinating. Nathan JB to the pit lane. Is anyone else coming in? It doesn't look like it. So another guy that was running on the podium now dives to the pit lane. These guys must be so confident. And to be honest, this is one of the strangest things I've ever seen on a racetrack. 4 drivers now on slicks. The rain may seem to be very slightly lighter, but I still can't see this really getting towards slicks. It's still raining. You'd imagine you'd have a few laps of the track actually coming back towards any sort of slick conditions. You'd probably lose more on the first lap because we will get back to racing on this lap, and it will still certainly be enters for that outlap. Unless we're only seeing this because of the safety car glitch and these guys have just sacked off the race. I don't know, but nevertheless, they're going for this strategy. Let's see how this unfolds, but I don't really know what to say to this.
Yeah, I don't really know either, and I don't think they've sacked off the race. I think someone like Commentables doesn't do that. And he obviously, as organized from this division, he would have called something if it was to be called off, I think. Yeah, I'm very curious about this. It looks to be getting slightly drier, but is it enough? Is it enough for these soft runners to get through and, yeah, get the strategy call right? And then they still have to get past 8 cars. I have to mention that as well. It's not going to be an easy thing to say. I think it stopped raining now.
It's unfair. If anything, it's barely raining. It may have stopped completely. We'll see. Maybe we've written this off too early, let's see. But it's still horrible for the slicks. Maybe it will come back towards them. There's still 3 laps of a 7-kilometre circuit, 21 kilometres ahead of us for things to just ease off a bit in terms of the water on the track. But this outlap is surely still going to be a nightmare. But now, yeah, I think you're right, it has stopped raining. Probably ahead of schedule thanks to the fact that we've had so many safety cars. I'm very intrigued. Could this unlikely strategy somehow work? Larkin, Ben Jace, Carmentalus, Nathan, JB, now all heading towards it. A strategy that we mocked at first. Let's see it in action. 3 laps to go, and we're building up towards the restart from Matt Tibble. Sully, who's had a disaster through most of this race, runs P2. Das Scream, who we saw holding up the leaders early on, now runs in front of all the early leaders. In one of the most bizarre races I think I've ever commentated on, Matt Tibbles leads them from the front, and I am not looking away from those bottom 4 cars. Let's see now, as the Williams leads them up to the line, he's going to open up that line, maybe try and get that little bit of a jump. Is he going to go at a similar point? Looks like he's on it now. So, Matt Tibos punches out at the final corner, managing that throttle still. He stays in front of Sully. Immediately the gap opens up to Larkin, VGS, Carmentalus, Nathan, JB behind, but let's see if things could somehow swing in their favour. Half a second is the gap for the leaders then. Coxey with a time penalty. He is still looking at the rear wing of that Scream as we head up towards Radio, but the gap opening up rapidly to the bottom 4, but the rain has tapered off. That Tibbles leads Sully, leads that Scream. Down Coxey, head behind them then. Are we going to see any moves? Forza Brendan is looking at Chicken, trying to get aggressive early on, but he can't quite get up and alongside. 5 seconds through just one sector, so I think a pit lane gap could open up here. Maybe things could come into fruition. It's looking drier and drier. They will come more into their own. We'll see how things unfold, but the slick's still very, very suboptimal then. The gap's still very quickly opening up to that pack.
Yeah, I'll have to say, I think at the end of the lap, we could see a completely different situation as see Nathan JB looking at the move on Carmentalus here for P11. I have to say, it looks almost dry, like in some parts of the track. Especially the first sector, it doesn't look that bad, but then you come towards Poon, and it looks like it's absolutely soaked.
Well, let's see. Larkin coming through there now. He's losing not quite as much time anymore. He's very, very loose heading through there. Nathan JB is still trying to line up Carmentalus then into Lefania. He's all over the road. My word. He gets himself on the inside as Carmentalus washes out wide. And now side by side with Lefania fighting the car. Carmentalus stays in front of Nathan JB. We're coming up now with 2 laps to go. And the compound gap is shrinking, but nearly a 13-second gap. Mr. BT to Larkin and still extending at this stage. Mr. BT is trying to attack Creco P7 and 8 at the moment they're on the road, and the Aston Martin is trying to line up that AlphaTauri with the exit off of the bus stop chicane, so things are coming together potentially for the soft runners, but still a big gap to make up with 2 to go. Mr. BT to the inside on Creco, better wheel to wheel contact between them, but the Aston Martin will get in front of the AlphaTauri then. This late advanced stage in the race. It's Matt Tibble, Sully, that Scream heading up Radio now, and that looks to be the order then. Coxey under pressure now. Funky Chicken trying to line one up on him then, who looked to be in a position to win this race for so long. He's not put a foot wrong, but really circumstances just haven't worked in his favour at all. Inside the last 2 laps of the Grand Prix, Matt Tibbles leads Sully, leads that Scream. Looks like those guys not really a threat to each other. Matt Tibbles could be heading for the most unlikely of victories here after struggling so much early on. Leads Sully, leads that Scream. Those guys not really near enough to challenge. Sully can try and get to Matt Tibbles. They run pretty close from Coxey downwards. Larkin still 16 seconds back. I think probably those soft runners, it's just going to be a stretch too far for them.
Yeah, I did not lose too much anymore, but I think it's game over now for the soft runners, and yeah, these intercept runners are gonna have made the right strategy call here, definitely. Let's see, can Sully maybe challenge for the win still? He is about 6 tenths, 5 tenths behind Matt Tibbles. Matt Tibbles can't afford to make any sort of mistakes. They both have enough ERS to push throughout the entire remainder of the race, I should say. And they are definitely going to do that. On to the final lap, soon we go. And let's see, can Sully take this win away?
He's very, very close then, considering we're in the wet. Of course, no DRS is going to be active. He's going to have to do this the hard way. So now, heading ourselves onto the final lap of the race, and we have a nervy battle between the front 2 there. 4 tenths the difference over the line now. Let's see which way This one is going to go. We open up that exit then out of La Sauce, and Matt Tibos leads half a second to the good. He may well just about be able to keep this. Heading up the hill, who's going to be more confident? Up Radion. The nerves kicking in for both these drivers then. Sully is slightly off the road, no penalty, but maybe a warning. But I think Matt Tibos has enough in hand, but he's certainly not out of the woods just yet. Sully with just 3 points for the season. We'll be looking for so much more. Matt Tibos with just 14. They're both looking to absolutely throw everything on top of their championship tallies. So we'll see then. Behind Ben GS and Commentalist are sparring further down the order then, as the soft gamble has not paid off in the slightest. Tibos still leads Sully. 3/10 is the difference. Matt Tibos sliding that Williams, heading through No Name Corner then, and well, good results have so often eluded him. It's looking potentially to be his day. Sully still tracking him in only his 3rd race this season then. VGS I think is going off slightly at Lecom, drop 2 places. Commentalist Nathan JB get through 4/10 between the 2 race leaders. Matt Tibos from Sully, almost nose to tail. That slipstream's not going to be overly powerful then, but we'll see. Sully is very close to Matt Tibos, gets a great run out of curveball there. The crossover point has happened, but it's too late. Sully's got a great run here up towards Blodgewon. Can he line one up then? 1/10 the difference as we head up towards the bus stop chicane. They're both trying to hold it together. Sully now lining up the Williams. Matt Tibos hard to the inside then. The McLaren trying to go all the way right outside. It's going to get run out of road. Matt Tibos, after such a long wait, finally it's all come together and he wins the Belgian Grand Prix. Sully second, the Scream in third. Funky Chicken grabs fourth in the end, and after a late scrap over the line with Forza Brendan, who with his 5-second penalty ends up 8th, will get that removed, I imagine. Mr. BT, Craco, Coxey the beneficiaries from that. Coxey's own penalty drops him down to 7th. And then the soft gamble just hasn't quite worked. Larkin's done a great job in terms of pace to stay in front of it. Nathan JB with a late move on Commentalist forces him a bit wide, and now there's a drag race to the line, and they come together. Nathan JB comes out in front in the end, crosses for Commentalist, and then Ben JS. And again, in one of the strangest races I've ever commentated on, Matt Tibos has come risen through from the ashes. And after so much frustration in his LOA career, at last, at Spa, he can call himself a race winner in a shock result, a shock podium here at Spa.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have called this podium, to be honest. Quite a surprising one, I have to say, but very well timed and very well driven from Matt Tibos. Obviously going to start right at the beginning of the race, jumping up, jumping a bit down again, but kept his cool. And yeah, very well done by him. And Sully as well made the last minute attempt, but couldn't quite get it, and the Williams does come out on top. Very well driven.
Yes, indeed. Look at that. Podium setters starting 15th, 12th, 14th on the ground. Matt Tibos, Sully, Dascream. Funky Chicken and Mr. BT, you can't say either of them did anything wrong today. It's just the way D2 races can unfold sometimes. They're 4th and 5th. Creco and Seth Coxey 7th. Forza Brendan, we'd expect, will get himself promoted back up to 5th. Once things are said and done with a penalty that should be removed. Larkin, Nathan, JB, Commentalist, Ben GS, the last of the points finishers, and a plethora of non-finishers from a chaotic Belgian Grand Prix. We'll see if we can get these guys in for interviews. Should be very intriguing, because I can't imagine any of them thought they would end up there, given at the start of the race that they had. So we'll maybe hear from those guys, but yeah, just what on earth has just gone on in front of our eyes, Verstappen?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. It's one of the strangest races, as you've mentioned a couple times, I've ever seen, really. And yeah, lost for words, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really find words to what we've seen. That was just remarkable in so many ways. Maybe not in the ways that we want to see, because of course we want to see great racing. We did see some great racing tonight, but really just a whole lot of drama. Of course, we saw all the guys that are really up there in the championship have disasters tonight, which is going to change. I don't think it's going to change the picture all that much, really. but we've seen something. I don't really know what we've seen, but it was certainly something.
Yeah, it was some interesting thing. I think if I had actually the wrong account of Sully, I have to see for that. But let's hopefully can get these guys in for their words on this crazy race. It's the only word for it, really. So I think we do have our race winner in now.
We certainly do. Well, Matt Tibos, I think a race where we probably hadn't tipped you to win until the last few laps, but just to run us through the emotions then, because we've seen so many opportunities for you in Division 2 that haven't quite worked out. The race was absolutely mental, but what does it mean to you to finally have everything come together and to grab that race win?
Yeah, it feels good, obviously. It's been a long time coming. Yeah, I think the first stint was on the mediums. I just want to try to keep it out of trouble. I didn't have the confidence on the curbs, so I should stay off them as much as I can. And then Zetor came out when the rain was coming down. And there's a few more at the end, which made it even more tense. So very happy with the win, and it was about time it happened.
Yeah, just run us through your thoughts during the race, because we saw you maybe not quite having the pace on the mediums, and of course things just unfolding in ways that I don't think anyone could predict, with the leaders coming together at the end of the safety car. Just what were your thoughts heading through the race? Give us a rundown of what on earth happened out on track.
Yeah, I mean, on the mediums, I didn't have the pace at all. I had a great start on the first lap and managed to be the first medium runner. Then I kind of just lost time and managed to stay in DRS. Yeah, at the end it was quite a lot going on. The first restart was quite interesting for the crash in front. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but yeah, very tense finish, and I'm glad to get over the line.
Of course, and I guess another thing, just how tense was that last lap? Because Sully was really pushing you throughout that last lap, looking to set up something into the bus stop chicane. Just how were the nerves at the end of that race?
Yeah, I thought after El Rouge last lap, I had a gap. I thought I'd be safe, but he had a very good middle sector, and then he closed right up on me. So I was like, as long as I defend the inside, I should be okay. And luckily, I managed to sort of keep the players on the inside, and he couldn't get past. So yeah, happy with how it finished.
Of course, man. I guess looking forward, we've seen obviously things turn around for you. You've been a very unlucky driver at several points. Luck finally on your side tonight. Looking forward into the future races, Zandvoort next up. Do these tracks suit you? Do you think you could maybe have more results like this one?
Zandvoort maybe not, but I'm sure there's other tracks where I can do a lot better than I get better results than I have been. Yeah, I'll just have to try and keep doing what I'm doing, and eventually the results will come.
Excellent. I guess I'll hand it to you, Verstappen. Do you have any questions for our race winner tonight in the Belgian Grand Prix?
Obviously, first of all, congratulations for you for that win. Very well driven. I have to say, were you ever in doubt at the end when some guys tried to pit it for the soft tyre that you made the wrong strategy call, or did you think it was gonna stick with intermediates and you made the right call?
I did contemplate pitting for the sauce, but I knew the rain was stopping soon, but I knew it wasn't going to dry out enough for the dryers to catch up. So I was pretty confident that I made the right call when Larkin came in. So yeah, I wasn't worried about behind. I was just worried about Sully and the guy behind him. But yeah, I think I made the right call.
Well, certainly you did in the end. Congratulations on the race victory here in the 10th round of the season. And I suppose now we will hand it back to our second place finisher tonight, Mr. Hillowise Sully, because I think, of course, after a fairly decent-ish qualifying session near the front of the outside of P11, but obviously things just didn't seem to click until those at second stint. Just run us through how you're feeling, because 3 points for the season, of course. We haven't seen much of you as a reserve driver. Just run us through what on earth your reaction to this, because it was one of the most bizarre races I've ever seen.
Yeah, how's it going? First of all, fair play to Matt on the win. You drove a good race there. Well, really, I tried to get P11 obviously and just do the mediums till the rain, and it was going fine until I think I dropped the car behind the Haas, and after that I thought it was over. I went to pit for softs and put me on hards, so I just pitted again. So there was 2 pit softs that stage, went on softs, got fastest lap, and I was like, I'll be happy enough with that. Then got lucky with the safety car and just chanced it on the intermediates because I knew the rain was coming, and that worked out in the end. Nearly got Matt, I'd say, one more lap at DRS, but no, he did well. I tried to go around the outside, but no, he stuck the car in a good place, so fair play to him. That's about it.
Yeah, what were your thoughts during like the later phase of the race when we saw all those different strategies? I think in particular when Larkin came in just in front of you, and I think your teammate Nathan came in right behind you for those slick tires. Was there any part of you that was tempted to go in for that, knowing that the rain was going to ease off?
Not particularly. Like I kept, geez, I must have hit weather report about 10 or 11 times, but he was telling me 5 minutes, and even there was no dry line. I think it stopped raining with about 2 laps to go, but I seen as soon as the restart went, the boys on the softs had dropped back, so no, I was kind of committed to staying on the intermediates, to be honest with you.
Yeah, certainly. Of course, hopefully we'll see more from you here. Of course, being a reserve, we haven't seen much of you this season, but it's good to see you up here. When you look at the future try, it's got Zandvoort, Russia, China, Hungary, Canada, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi still left for the season. When you look at that, are there any tracks that you particularly hope you can get the call up for and go back on the track yet again, try and get another great result?
Well, I'm on pads, so Netherlands and Brazil would be my 2 best tracks in the game. Other than that, I wouldn't really mind, to be honest.
Okay, and I guess I'll hand it over to Verstappen. Do you have a question for our second place finisher tonight?
I don't actually have too much question. I do want to congratulate you though on that drive. Very well driven, and yeah, hopefully in the future we can see you a few more times up in this podium and get you some good results.
Cheers, thanks very much.
No worries at all, but I think that is going to be just about it for tonight then, in what was, I guess, just a race unlike anything I've seen in a very long time. I guess to you, Verstappen, to round up what we've seen at the 10th round of this season, any final thoughts for this evening?
Yeah, I came into this after Australia, and it was quite already a bonkers race, with a lot of cars dropping it. I thought maybe we can have a slightly calmer race, but it seems that Division 2 is not capable of that, for the worse or for the better. That's left to be up for interpretation to everyone entirely. But yeah, it was definitely, once again, a completely entertaining race with some mad strategy calls. Big shout out to Benji S as well for blowing our minds completely. And yeah. Anyways, yeah, it was very entertaining, and I can't imagine what Zandvoort's going to be like.
No, I can't either, given just what we've seen throughout this season with just chaos, race after race, has been the story of this championship. But I think that's going to be just about it for tonight. So, that looks to be everything just about wrapped up. 10 rounds in the books, only 7 left to go as we continue to evolve our way throughout the season. And of course, make sure to be tuning in as well for the next round at Zandvoort. So we'll see how that is going to go once again in another crazy Division 2 race. It is going to be just about it for the evening. For myself and Verstappen, it is goodbye for now, and until next time, we'll see you later.